Hi, I'm Tom Stevenson,
I'm Jack Bellotti.
And I'm David Petro.
and our project is the COVID-19 flight tracker.
So to tell you a little bit more about our project, we decided that we wanted to create something that was relevant pertaining to what was happening in the world today. And what we discovered is there really wasn't a tool available that were tracking flights from COVID-19 affected areas in the United States. And what was available was pretty bloated and just really difficult to understand for most users. So we kind of took it upon ourselves to create a web application with a minimalist approach to kind of help people track flight data from these affected areas in the United States. So how we went about doing this is we had a variety of different tools and text editors that we used. I'm more of a Linux guy, so I used Vim. I know a couple of my teammates here use Microsoft Visual Studio. We also tested our functionality using command lines. We also used Heroku to kind of manage web hosting and load balancer solutions on there. And then the standard GitHub to warehouse the code for all team members. And our communication was largely reliant on kind of group chats and through text messages. And then we also met on Zoom twice and sometimes 3 times a week to kind of help track bugs and work out kinks in our functionalities.
Jack.
Oh, on to data. So our project relies heavily on data, and we looked to a multitude of different sources in order to aggregate all this data into models that could be placed into our database. Luckily for us, all the information that we're working with is public access and public domain, meaning we were able to find REST APIs with this data hosted for us to call into it in order to get real-time updated data. This data was for county-specific data for COVID-19, which came from the New York Times, airport data, which comes from a branch of the government, the Federal Aviation Administration, and state and county border came from the US Census Bureau. All this data together was aggregated for the front end so that we could properly place all the visuals and have all the interactivity in all the right places. Moving on to those features and functionality, we'll start with the backend. As I mentioned before, the backend is composed entirely of Python scripts, which call to these third-party REST APIs and integrate that data into updates and inserts that are sent into our database. On the front end, we take this information from the database and put it to use that makes sense in a way a user can understand. So we use various JavaScript libraries along with HTML and CSS in order to create a map of the United States that has custom markers placed with every airport. In addition to that, it provides filters, search functionalities, and even shows a list of connecting ingoing and outgoing flights, as well as appropriate COVID data with those places to help users make the best informed decision possible.
So this is sort of a high-level overview of our architecture. So on the back end, obviously, we have the Python logic and the Postgres database, which Jack mentioned before. We use SQL Alchemy to allow the backend code to interact with the database and get the relevant data that the front end needs that it can send to it. We used Flask for our sort of web hosting, or like to set up web endpoints, both for the user to use and for like the front end and the back end to send data to each other. And on the front end, obviously we used HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for like the display of the page. We used Ajax to get the to fetch the JSONs from the back end to the front end asynchronously whenever the user needed it. Mapbox.gl.js was the library that we used to actually have the map show up on the screen. Bootstrap makes things look pretty, and JavaScript obviously does JavaScript things. It's like the main functionality of the website. And we're about to show you the main functionality of the website on our demo. It's actually hosted right now at this link. I'll show you a version that's hosted on my machine right now because it's more up to date. But you can use this link to check it out if you want to. So I'll refresh. This is our web app. So as you can see, it's a map of the United States, also plus Alaska and Hawaii. We're only focusing on the United States right now because that's where you can get like the best level of COVID data. You can like get county level COVID data. For other countries, it's more like countrywide. So we decided to limit ourselves to domestic flights just because also not that many people are flying internationally right now. I don't know why you would. So here we can see like all the states are different shades of red. That represents the number of COVID cases there are in each state. We can change this view to the county data, and you can see on a more granular level where all the COVID cases are. This has gotten a lot more red within the past couple months. All this data is updated every day, so we can like sort of see it continuously get worse over time, which is pretty cool. All these blue markers are airports. There's a few hundred commercial airports in the United States, at least that are like actively used. But these are a lot of markers here. So we can filter them down by filtering by the number of cases there are in the airport's location. So say we want to find an airport with a maximum of 1,000 cases in its county within the last 2 weeks. Filter. It's going to take a little bit to load. And these are the airports where they are in counties with 1,000 or fewer cases. See, this is 723. As you can see on the right, it's in Indiana. This one in Illinois, 627 new cases in the last 2 weeks. So not great, but better than 1,000. You can reset the map using this button. We also have a nice little search functionality that we can use to find airports. Say, if you want to find any random airport, LAX, search, there's LAX. If you want to find Cleveland, CLE, there it is. And say we want to know more about Cleveland. So we click on Cleveland, and as you can see on the right, you can see its location, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, and 7,000 cases in the last 2 weeks. But we can also see information about the flights that are coming to and originating from this airport. So if you click on incoming here, so these are all the flights that are coming into Cleveland Airport, all the domestic flights. We don't track international flights, like I said earlier. So there's one flight that comes into Cleveland from Dallas, Fort Worth, which has 13,000 active or coronavirus cases within the last 2 weeks. Yeah, that's interesting. So if a user wants to know like if the airport they're going to is safe or not, they can like sort of use this tool to see like where the flights are coming from, to see like the number of cases at each flight's origin. But assuming you're going to any commercial airport at this point, it's going to be sort of dangerous. So that's an airport with a lot of flights. You can also see outgoing flights, which is mostly the same in most cases. Sometimes it's different. As you can see, it changes a little bit, but it's almost the exact same. If we reset the map and find a smaller airport, this looks like a small airport. Yeah, there aren't that many cases coming to flights coming to MLI, but as you can see, they still, this one is Chicago, Cook, Illinois, that's Cook County. So 55,000 cases in the last 2 weeks in Chicago. That's pretty concerning. But anyway, this is the main functionality of our project so far. So we're going to add some stuff. We're going to like make it look pretty. We're going to add a little bit more functionality. We're going to add like loading bars because sometimes it takes a while to sift through all the data to get back on this web page. But other than that, yeah, this is the core functionality. And I believe that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.